If you came for the happy video where I talk about all the things that I do to keep myself sane in an insane world, that's coming, but that's not this video. That being said, one of the things that we do to try and get back to reality, I guess you could say, is reconnect with nature. It's really sad to say reconnect with nature, because when I was a kid, I went outside all the time. I was climbing 30-foot high trees in the woods and running around making trails, and I was constantly outside. I was a tomboy, and I had a lot of brothers. But now we're reconnecting with it because we're so utterly disconnected from it. I watched this movie the other night. It was a Stephen King adaptation of one of his books that he co-wrote the screenplay for, called Cell. And it is literally about how cell phones have taken over society. And in the movie, they send out a signal which turns everyone into a 28 days later type of fast-running zombie that foams at the mouth and is horribly violent. They become like a flock of birds. It's a herd. It's a literal stampeding, mindless herd of zombies. And Samuel L. Jackson's in it too, which is pretty creepy to me just because he's now been in 2 movies in recent years where they use cell phones to send out a signal that drives everyone insane and causes them to be horrifically violent against one another. It's like the people are antennas and they receive the signal, the frequency, and it turns everyone into a violent but otherwise mindless hive mind. They start actually broadcasting the signal out, and so it doesn't even take cell phones anymore for them to change other people into zombies in the later parts of the film. And sorry for the spoiler, but at the end, there's a scene where thousands of cell phone zombies are seen stumbling in unison around a giant cell phone tower like it's Mecca. It's a hive mind. Some very interesting notions in this film. I wonder what Royal Raymond Rife would think of this movie. It's very Videodrome except cell phones, basically, and with more zombies. That movie is scary, not because the actual things that are happening are necessarily scary. It's pretty gory, but it's not scary in that way. It's scary in the fact that it doesn't just make a statement on society, it also makes you wonder, how close are we literally to they live? It really does set your mind to wonder if you are paying attention enough to wonder. Because like I said earlier, everyone's so disconnected. The only thing they're connected to is the phone. You have got to notice this. It's slowly moving in, but you've got to have noticed it, that you can't go anywhere without everyone being on their phone all the time. If this was a science fiction horror film written on another planet to an alien species and they saw the way that we were acting, everyone just willfully bowing to this technology and putting it on their heads and pretty soon in their heads, they would be looking at that the way that you look at a bad horror film when the protagonist runs up the stairs instead of running out the front door. That's how they'd be watching this, with suspense. Even though to us it's slowly happening over time. Do you remember 10 years ago? It was not like this, okay? It was not this way. And like I said, we like to get back to nature and reconnect. And we had to go for a few days because we had to film the last few location shots for our documentary, which we're almost done with, and have been spending all our time pretty much working on it. So we ended up going through the Grand Canyon, which my son had never been to, and Aaron had never seen it from the ground. Might be a really cool thing for all of us to go since we can make it on the way home. And I mean, it's the Grand Canyon. The word grand is in the name of the place, And when you first come in, there's all these parking lots, and there's this very busy, touristy, I guess, South Rim area. And we got there right when the sun was starting to set. And everybody was just flocked there with their cell phones in hand, just selfieing away like mad. Just everywhere you looked, selfies. They weren't looking at the canyon. They had their backs physically turned to the place they drove all, because you don't just go to the Grand Canyon when you go to there. You have to drive north of any major highway, and it's way up there. So it's not like you just stop by on your way home for a quick selfie. People are purposefully making this long trek to get to this area so they can literally turn their back on it and stare at their phone while they take pictures of themselves standing at it. And just the irony of that. It was so underwhelming. It felt like we were on a movie set and the canyon was the backdrop. It was weird because I remember being there as a kid and just thinking it was the most amazing place ever. And I thought to myself, gee, as an adult, if I go back there and it's even half as cool as it was when I was 11, then that'll be a pretty cool thing to share with my kid. But we got there and it was so, I almost can't explain it really in words. I felt sad. So we headed off on some trail because now the sun is definitely setting. We were pretty careful about it. But it is on the rim, and you could, at parts of it, just walk right off the side into the canyon and just drop down however many feet that is. It looked like an awful lot. You start to really feel your place on the ground when you see something as huge as the Grand Canyon in front of you. It started to have that feeling again of how amazing that place really is. It's a very spiritual place. I mean, it really is a sight to behold. It was starting to be after dusk, but not quite fully dark. So we decided that it was time to turn around because obviously you're not going to want to walk next to the Grand Canyon in the dark. That's real smart. But we sat down on a bench for just a second. Right in front of us, we were able to see down into a part of this canyon. 3 people that sounded like they were probably in their early 20s had climbed down onto a small plateau in the canyon and were selfieing in the almost dark. The guy was about 5 steps away from his imminent doom. You know, if he had just backed up 5 more steps, he'd have fallen completely off the freaking thing. These people aren't here. That's what's scary about that. It's not fine, take all your selfies and whatever. I mean, but it's like they're half gone or all gone in some other reality where there are no consequences to climbing on the precipice of a place that is very dangerous where you can die very fast, even during the day. Because he's thinking about how cool that's going to look on Instagram or whatever. He's there. He's in the internet. He's not in reality anymore. He's gone. They're gone. And we were sitting there and my kid was freaking out like, oh my gosh, are they going to fall off and die? This is really horrible. It was really freaking, it's an 8-year-old was sitting there concerned about these grown adults and their behavior. That was pretty sad. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I just wanted to share that with people because it just blows my mind how gone everyone is. They're watching their kids' plays through their phone and they're watching the concert through their phone and they're turning their back on one of the 7th wonders of the world that they drove all the way up there to see so they can take a picture of themselves smiling in front of it like an idiot. Do people even go back and watch all this footage? But they're not there experiencing the reality they're at. They're not reconnecting with nature when they go do that. They're connected to their phone. They're connected to the internet and they're not seeing anything that's in front of them. They might as well not even be there. It's just, where did everyone go, you know? And why isn't anyone asking that question? It just seems like a very important question. And I don't understand why more people aren't asking it, because it's getting weird out there. And maybe I'm just more sensitive to it than most, but everyone's disappearing. It's almost like you could hear a pin drop and you can't feel that there's other people in the room because they're so gone. If you didn't look at them and know better, you would think you were sitting in a room full of empty chairs. But at least there's a Chase Bank at the Grand Canyon. So that was the Grand Canyon.
Selfie canyon!
I'm glad I have my childhood memories still. I don't know, I just can't believe it. I guess if I ask, where is everybody, and you ask, where is everybody, and the person you ask it to asks somebody else, maybe more people will start asking, where did everybody go? I mean, they're making movies about cell phones sending signals to your brain that turn you into a zombie. If not literally, at least take it for the metaphor that it is. But zombies don't watch movies, do they?